Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back again to Higher and Beyond podcast. So, this is my 17 or 18 episode that I actually forgot. But anyway, don't worry about it. This is actually the place for us to learn about personal development, personal growth, and self improvement. So, subscribe if you are actually curious about anything and want to learn about the self improvement, etc. Because I am have my guest speaker today. Welcome, Gaby Tzeschlock. Hi, Gaby.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. That's great. It will be fun.
Thank you very much for joining. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for inviting me in and trusting me that we can have a great conversation.
Oh my God, we would like to learn from you anyway. But before we dig deeper and jump into our conversation, and I would like to introduce you to our audience today who's watching this video. Okay, so yeah, for all of you guys who doesn't know who is Gaby Tzeschlock Gaby is a mentor. Gaby is a facilitator of personal development event, which now Gaby has actually facilitating public speaking group, and Gabby also a public speaker, writer, and master of Achologist, a practitioner of modern applied psychology. And Gabby also a founder and owner of the Growing Tall Services, which specialize in helping people achieving mental peace through resilience and embracing the uncommon sense. Wow, amazing. Gabby, um, I'm really curious because the first group it will be on your website. It will be the Health and Wellness Center, and I love the sentence about. I mean, I agree with that. It called like building community. It takes time, and again, building village even longer. Can you describe what does that actually mean? Because it sounds interesting about village and community.
Yeah. Thank you very much for asking, Uni. I'm in the process with a few other trusted ecologists to actually build a community where people can come, get real support. There's a lot of courses out there and tutorials, but that means again we're sitting on our own on our devices, and there are good courses, there's nothing wrong with it, but what I have recognized in the last 4 years is that people are actually missing connections, real friendships. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a community where we bring all the knowledge into a place where we can actually meet, have Zoom calls, and actually meet people. Because the one thing I really think people are missing is actually this relationship, strong, deep relationships with people. And the question is, how can we build them?
Mhm.
And the village hub with the wellness center and everything we're doing there is actually the first step into getting out of our shells again and actually engaging with other people. There was a research done even before COVID, something like 23% of Americans, Irish people, Brits, Western world, people felt lonely. They actually felt
Yeah.
lonely, and this is a really, really big issue, I think, affecting our mental health and our physical health because they're interconnected.
Oh wow. I mean, yes, most people are feel lonely. That is actually sad. It's really affecting the mental health for that the person.
Yeah.
And nothing that anyone can do with that because most of the people actually don't know what to do when they feel lonely.
Yeah. And I think it's important to actually get the vocabulary right first, because
Okay.
there is solitude, and solitude is actually something really good. Every so often we actually need to take a break, take a breath, spend some time on our own and kind of regroup for ourselves. I call it regroup ourselves, right? And that's really, really good. And we can live quite isolated if we are good with solitude. It doesn't really affect us, right? And we still go out and we have connections, we have fruits, we just enjoy our own company. Now that's very, very, very different from feeling lonely. And
Mm,
lonely, when we think of lonely people, we think of you know, the single woman who maybe is a librarian with three kids at home. That's not necessarily the case because loneliness has a stigma attached to it. People don't really say, "Oh, I really feel lonely," because even in our language, if we see a woman on her own, language goes, "Oh, she was left on the shelf. Nobody wanted to marry her," right? Or there's really no mates, right? So it's a negative language around it. We look like losers. And that's why we don't say when we feel lonely. And it's really, really important to be able to voice that because you're not necessarily on your own. I've met in the last 4 years to my practice, I think more lonely people who are married than single people because they don't talk to the partners anymore. There's no real connection anymore. They're just all stressed. They're running from the job to mind the kids and doing the household, and there's no time for the couple anymore. And 15 years later, they haven't had a real good conversation in years. So loneliness is something very subjective, and it doesn't mean that you're socially isolated. You can be surrounded by a lot of people and still feel very lonely because you have no real connection to the people.
oh wow, this is really affected into mental health again that you just said, and indeed about loneliness. And in my experience too, I can see in my society that people are feeling lonely even though they have a partner or they are in the married or in the relationships rather than a single person. It's like it's sad, yeah, you're single because nobody marry you and things like that. It's not about that. It's everything. It's choice as single. Sometimes the single people are actually happy rather than the people who is in the relationship. And also sometimes I can tell in my experience I have some people that um, feeling I feel lonely, so I'm gonna find a partner, and then when they are in the relationship it become toxic for them. I'm actually not happy, but anyway, yeah, here's the thing. Is that what you really uh, focusing on building this community?
Yeah, that's the focus to actually help us build a community where we actually can even talk openly about what's going on for us. Because what I recognize a lot, and I've done that in the past, we don't say when something is up because we want to look in work professional, so we don't say if we're struggling with something. In our friendships, we want to look like we have it all together, right? For our family, something may be going on, but we feel, oh no, I have to be strong. I have to be strong for the kids. I have to be strong because my parents are older now. I have to cope. And that can become a really lonely place as well because you're trying to do everything and the feeling comes in that everybody else has it in order, everybody else has it in check, I'm the only one struggling, and we don't talk about those things. So the idea of the village as well is to have the community where we feel safe and we find the understanding and absolutely no judgment what's going on. So it's a community not with, I say it now, kind of leaders who are gurus. It's a community where the leaders of the communities are the facilitators to just open up the space. So whatever comes will be dealt with. So it's a really space for the people rather than a space for the facilitators, if that makes sense.
Hmm. All right. So with having a village or support network,
Hmm.
this is, I mean, why do you believe this is important for you to actually help, because a village,
Yeah,
why is it so important for you in having this village community?
yeah. When I started out 4 years ago, I worked a lot with overwhelm, burnout, life balance. And I recognized something, our life is never in balance. This myth of, oh, I have to try and get life balance. It's not going to happen. Life isn't straightforward. There will be always a curveball thrown at us. Things are happening. There are things we are not even counting on, and then suddenly all hell breaks loose. So life will be never completely balanced. The trick is to have the resilience to actually work with whatever comes along. And a lot of the resilience is actually having support. We think of resilience of something people have, but resilience is not a character trait. Resilience is something we practice when the going gets tough. And when we're relaxed, if we get enough breaks, if our health is in a good state, we can deal with an awful lot. And the support of other people is so important. Let's say you're working, everything goes fine, and you suddenly are diagnosed with an illness. A big, big curveball. If we feel we have to do everything on our own and we feel lonely, it's very hard to negotiate. If we have relationships built and a community and we have a village behind us helping us through that, it's so much easier, and that's kind of lost. So that's why I call it the village, because in the old days we lived in villages, and we had the support, we knew who we could approach. And nowadays it's kind of lost. We live in big cities with millions of people. We may move there, our family is hundreds of kilometers away, and we actually really lonely. Even if we have a partner and kids, there are not the grandparents there, there are not the aunties there to help out. So it can be a really lonely place nowadays, and that's why I call it the village. It's kind of bringing that spirit of community back, where we help each other and we can talk to each other and be open about it.
Mm, why?
And yeah,
Wow. Mm, wow. So, what is actually the cause of loneliness in this case then? Because sometimes we don't know what is going on actually.
yeah. Loneliness is a real trap 22, and they did a lot of research on it as well. So usually we slip into loneliness when we just feel we have nobody there around us. It can be a perceived loneliness, like in a marriage where with stress and daily life, we just got out of the habit to really have the connection with the partner. It can be a real isolation suddenly. Let's say you were happily married for 40 years and your partner dies and your kids are in another town, and suddenly your focus, your partner is gone. A lot of teenagers feel lonely because they're changing, they're finding their own little personality, and suddenly the friends they may used to have don't really click with them anymore, and they haven't found their new friends yet. So there's kind of, what they say, there's kind of a curve. There's a lot of loneliness in teenagers, youth, and there's a lot of loneliness with older people. But it doesn't mean, you know, it's like a curve like this, but it
Yeah,
can be literally affecting anyone. Anyone who
right.
feels misunderstood, feels they have nobody to talk to, um, feel lonely.
Yeah. Well, it is actually hard and sad. Sometimes we are living in the people are live with the many people. Sometimes the family they don't even talk with because it's not really helping when they are talk because it's judgmental and things like that. I mean, wow, I can actually relate with that. Now, Gabby, I wish I'm there, so I would like to join the group and the community. Anyway, so how have
Y-
you actually? Okay,
Yeah, you
tell me.
mentioned something there really interesting, because you said communication, and that's
Ah,
why I'm so really excited about communication because communication really is our foundation of our
Yeah.
relationships.
Yep.
And it's the one thing we never learn. How does
Gosh.
communication work?
Mm,
How do we perceiving people? How are people perceiving us, right? So communication is really, really important. And if we learn to be really great communicators, it makes also our relationships much richer.
yeah.
So that's one really important part, I think, of personal growth is actually learning to become a really good communicator. That's why I do a lot of on communication
Yeah.
uh, in my practice, and it's really important. And you mentioned the health and wellness center earlier. The reason why we put that into the village as well is because there is a lot of effects on our physical health. And they did a lot of research with loneliness, which is really interesting. The minute you are lonely and you feel lonely, your brain is actually changing. It affects our entire brain. And for a long time, they only thought kind of the amygdala, but even our, what they call the human brain, our cognitive brain is actually changing. And they did a lot of research all over the world on it. And it's really interesting. If you meet very lonely and isolated people, they often come across very paranoid. They always have the feeling people are out to get them.
Mm,
And that's actually because our brain actually changes. Our brain actually gets very, very, very defensive. It's more lonely we are, as more we perceive that the world and other people are out to get us. And it's actually brain chemistry. It's really interesting. But that means that we isolate ourselves even more. So we seek the connection, but because of that, we actually step back and we actually get more suspicious of people. We kind of it's a real catch 22, right? As more lonely you become, it's really interesting. And because of that, even with the chemistry, illnesses go up
yeah.
because we find that people are maybe out together. People are very lonely, have a higher cortisol level all the time. That affects our heart. That affects, they're more likely to get heart attacks, strokes. We usually
Mm,
eat more because that's our friend, our comfort. So we get thicker, we gain weight a
yeah.
lot of the time. And I think there's a research that people who are lonely for years have a 40% more chance of developing dementia, for example. So it's really affecting our physical body, really affecting us big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. It's beside of affecting the mental, our mind, it also affect our body also, which it's about the health.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's so, I can tell, so sad, right? And well, talking about, this is it's a community, and I agree that actually communication is one of the biggest issue in relationship, because people are know, actually they know what is communication about, but they don't know how to actually use it and practice and use it into principle, into life and in the relationship. So this is very sadly. What I'm actually curious also, have you actually, how have you personally benefit from having a strong support network in your life?
I was very lucky most of the time. There was periods where I really felt lonely. I moved town a few times where I didn't know anyone for professional reasons, and it was very, very difficult at the start because you go to work, you come home, and that's it. And
Mm,
what I usually did was, and probably because I was single, so I went actively out looking maybe for clubs I could join or groups I could join, and I made friendships there. Um, I did stand up comedy and improvisation in my pastime after work for 20 years. And that was a great way to meet people and have a laugh. And I think that's really, really important. We take life so serious, especially when
yeah,
we think, oh, I want to develop myself, personal growth. We get all serious about it. But Laughing, having a good time, having actually joy with other people is the biggest mental health benefit we can get. Probably having a good time once a week and having a laugh is actually more beneficial than going 3 times a week to a psychiatrist. It's really about having fun with people. We forget about it a lot of the time. So that's what I did, and I was lucky to build up a lot of really, really good, strong friendships where we literally do everything. If somebody rings and says I need help, we know there's somebody who will run. And that was really helpful because 3 years ago I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and the support I had going through that, it made it really, really easy. And I think that's the big moment where I realized how important community is, and friendships, and good relationships. It really makes or breaks you in a way.
Well, actually, having a strong support and having a community, find a community, is especially the event that you've just mentioned about the stand-up comedy. It's interesting, right? Sometimes it is needed. Do you think this is one of the idea of aware self-awareness of how you love yourself?
Yeah, I think it is, because if you look, nobody wakes up one morning and says, "Oh, I'm lonely," or nobody wakes up in the morning and say, "Look, I'm depressed. I'm really
Mm,
depressed."
mm,
It's usually a downward spiral. Something happens, and we go, "Oh, okay, that was a really bad week," right? And then maybe something else happens, and the going gets tough, right? And it's like as tougher it gets, if we don't have support, we spiral down to the point where in one end we say, "Oh, my life is so terrible, only bad things happen to me," where we can't even see when something good happens to us because we're so focused on everything bad going on, and we feel trapped. It feels like even the universe is against you. That's what it feels like. And that's where the depression really settles in, where I think I'm doing everything wrong, nobody likes me, and it just becomes such a dark place. To be self aware, to say, okay, this was a bad week, or now something bad has happened, but that's not life. Life, I always say, is like the sea. You have sunny days and you have full blown storms. And it's the self awareness to be saying, okay, I have feelings now of being down, being sad, being overwhelmed, but they're just feelings. And feelings come and go like storms.
yeah.
And that's why I don't like when people say negative and positive emotions. I absolutely don't like that because they're all emotions are all valid. Emotions are valid, and it's important to remind ourselves they all come and go. Even the negative ones come and go. And this is so important because what is happening in the really the mental health industry, negative emotions now are always just bad, right? I mean, if I
Mm,
would go and say to somebody, look, I'm really happy. I'm happy for weeks now. Everything is absolutely going the right way. It's brilliant. I'm on top of the world. I feel so good. There must be something wrong. I'm going to the doctor and I get an anti-happiness pill. People go like, this woman has lost her mind. But if we
yeah.
have a period of maybe a few months or 6 months where we feel down, or I feel depressed, I think I go to the doctor and I get a antidepressant pill. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's not situations where they can help, absolutely not. But I think we're sometimes a little bit too quick in reaching out for them, rather than maybe look for a community or even talk to somebody proper about what's going on. I mean, I don't know. At least that's my experience where I live in Ireland. You go to your GP, you say you're depressed. The GP has a chat with you for 10 minutes and says, "Yeah, you really sound depressed. And here's a pill." They give them out like Smarties. And yes, there is situations where I need it. And I strongly believe they should be only be prescribed by psychiatrists when they're really needed. But otherwise, there's so many different ways we can help ourselves without the first option being a tablet. So that's my personal, really my personal experience, um, looking around me. That yeah, a GP who is not a psychiatrist and has a talk with somebody for 10 minutes, well, shouldn't they really send the people first to a psychiatrist to really see what's going on before they give out tablets? And I had one client who actually really said it nicely. She actually came to me and said, Gabby, my GP saw me for 10 minutes and really don't want to take the tablet. And I said, why don't you want to take it? She said, look, I have a real problem in work. And my problem thinking about it is my manager. I can take the pill, but it doesn't solve my problem with my manager. He will be still there. The relationship will be still the same. So what's that? The tablet won't do anything for my situation. I have to change the situation. And that's when we started working then what was going on. And 3 months later, she was back to herself and she never took a tablet. So that's a lot of the times I get experiences like that. And that's why I'm saying we shouldn't give them out like Smarties. There's other ways. And
Yeah,
community is one of them. Having good, strong support.
yeah, wow. Yeah, that was, I mean, really interesting one, Gabby. It's, yeah, it might be your experience, but anyway, I feel it. I can relate with it. And yeah, instead of talking with the GP for 10 minutes, just go talk to. Well, if you don't have a community, I think it's better if you go to the professional, right? And what about your opinion? What are some of the key components or characteristic of a supportive community or network beside of all of the things going on in the society and in life that many people expect? Well, I can tell it's not only one two people having this experience because many out there, right? What is the components or characteristic of a supportive in the network community?
I think it's a little bit subjective. I think
Okay.
it's down to the individual, and it's more like a feeling. I think a good community, you feel at home and you feel safe. I think that's the two main points. You feel safe, you feel understood, you feel you're listened to, and there is no judgment. And we often mix up community with a tribe. It has become very popular in the last 15 years to say, oh, look for your tribe. I don't think that's helpful because think about what a tribe was in the old days. A tribe was a really insular community who was not reaching out to other tribes usually, but who was holding on to whatever their land was. And if somebody else came in, there was war, right? There was
Yeah.
tribal wars. We even say tribal
Mhm.
wars. So in modern society, I think finding a tribe is too insular because they usually are found around one opinion or one way to live, and they lose the understanding for how we can live other ways, right? And the problem is you can't change your mind. So if you have found good friendships in your tribe, and let's say your tribe, I just pick one out, and I'm not, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Let's say that the tribe is of one particular political opinion, right? Or of one particular way what to eat and not to eat. You
Mm.
stuck with that. And everybody else who has a different opinion from you is bad and is attacked,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Mm.
So, what happens if you are in a particular political group and something happens and you go like, I don't really like that. What just happened? I actually have a different opinion right now on this specific subject than the rest, or maybe the head of the group, you can't say it. Because if you do, you become one of the enemies and you lose your tribe and you suddenly overnight lose all your friendships.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
think this picture of find your tribe is because our language really determines as well how we think.
Right.
So what we think our words are and words we use influence our thinking. So using the word let's look for a tribe, I don't find helpful because
Mm.
it's usually about being very opinionated and very aggressive on what you believe and all that. So
Mm.
I
Yeah.
think community, a good community is also able to talk to other people with other opinions and say, okay, why do you have that opinion? And the
Mm.
person goes, well, I had that experience. And because it's all down to experience. And it's usually interesting because I might not have that experience and then say, oh, that's what you experienced. That's completely different from my experience. And to exchange that actually starts building the understanding and seeing that the other person is not all bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Because I mean, indeed, with that, from my experience, I can tell that many communities right now in what I experience that people are, oh, I don't like this, I don't want to do this anyway. Well, it's like there's no open communication, like, because I really well, I can actually relate with that. However, what I learned from our community that there is no judgment, so people have a different perspective. And then the good thing is that because we learn from each other, we don't have a judgment from each with each other, so we actually learn from that situation in the community,
I
right?
yeah, I liked what you said there. Learning. It's about learning
Yeah.
because I think the trap we fall into is that with time we think, oh, what I've learned is the
Mm.
truth. The point is, it's not that truth, it's just a truth. It's usually ours, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't mean other people have to live to satisfy our truth, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
So, yeah, to be open then to learn what another person's truth is, what their life's truth is, what experience they had. And our experiences come first. When we grow up, whatever we do, when we get our first job, when we go the career ladder, whatever we do, it builds experiences. And those experiences determine what we think, it determines our behavior, it determines how we communicate, it determines our attitudes towards life. So it's the experiences who actually build us.
Yeah.
And we often forget that. And the funny thing is, if we want our life to be different, we need new experiences to see it can be different. And that's probably why I'm keen on building community, because by doing activities together, by having the opportunity to meet other people with different experiences and so on and so forth, it brings us out of our shell, it brings us out of our little world. And we need that to even then challenge us to go out into the world and get new experiences means we can then learn to maybe change our attitudes, which aren't helpful, to maybe work with our fears we have because we realize, oh, I did it and nothing bad happened. Why was I fearful in the first place, right? All those new experiences will actually help us to really change what we don't like about our life. Because I hear it a lot of people saying, you know what, I'm stuck. I feel stuck. Nothing is happening. But without being courageous going out and actually doing new things, we will never change our ways. We just are stuck with whatever we learned in the last whatever years it is we're on Earth, 40 years, 50 years, you know.
Yeah,
So we need the new experiences.
yeah. Um, I agree. I mean, indeed, we really need the new experiences. New experiences. It doesn't have to be anything else. It doesn't have to be we have to learn or go into another education again and again. But by having this community, with call it safe space. Um, for all of us to actually be in this community and learn with each other, it's actually a good thing also for, I can tell, the mental health, because something that come out like what you said earlier, that something that in the mind it come to the words, and sometimes the negative thought that come from the mind, it actually become reality because you say negative, and then it's gonna become negative again and again and again. So how do you build this community as a safe place for the people so that they can actually learn and help uh, all of the community in your group?
Yeah. It's actually it is an adventure. And I'm saying it's an adventure because I'm only started it. So we're in the very, very, very beginning. I have at the moment another trusted 4 practitioners with me who are facilitators who said we come in, we help, and it will be built around the members. So for the moment, if somebody's interested, if somebody is listening and says, I'm sitting at home, I'm listening to this, and I actually feel lonely. I feel what they are talking about. I can relate to that. Come in because the founding members, the people who are coming in now, will actually determine what the place will look like. Because what I always feel, and I do it with all my programs, yeah, I have an idea of what I want to happen. I have a standard of I want to be there, but I cannot really determine what exactly we will do because that's like mind reading people I haven't met yet. It's a little bit like when I do a workshop and I start maybe workshops in a company. I usually always have a first meeting, even in the public speaking groups. I have a first meeting, which is a welcome meeting where we just talk what people are looking for, what they need help with, what they're struggling with, what their expectations are, what they're hoping to get out of the group. And I take that information and then I build something around it. Because the problem with the pre-built programs or pre-built groups is that I would sit at home and presume what people need. And
Yeah.
I've been to workshop series of, which were absolutely brilliant. They were wonderful and well researched and wonderfully presented and the whole lot. And in the end, I said, yeah, it was absolutely great, but had absolutely no relevance to my life. And that's
Oh,
what I'm trying to avoid. I want
yeah.
when people come in, I want to listen to them and find out what they want, and then we can build the community around that. So they actually get value out of the group. They get solutions. They get the help they need, and not presuming what they need, but actually listen first and then build it around it. So the first people coming in have a real adventure with us. It's really a space for us rather than, oh yeah, there are some facilitators and they put something on and you know it might suit me, it might not suit me. So that's the idea.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So first of all is to know what is actually the person want to join within the group,
Yeah,
rather than, okay, I'm just gonna build this group, this community, whatever reason the people want to join, just join. It's actually not the idea that you're building, right?
that's it. Yeah. and
Okay.
I, and I'm absolutely honest from the start. The group is not for free because I I want to take it away from social media because I think social media is not very social anymore.
Yeah.
I we can scroll all day. We don't really find connections. And
Yeah.
also, I find when we go, if I would just do a Facebook group, we get distracted. We look at Facebook or the social media, then we start scrolling. It's usually not very helpful. I fall into the trap as well. We all do. So it
Yeah.
will,
Yeah.
yeah, it's actually so the group is built on an app, which at the moment is just on a website, but it will go onto the app stores maybe. I hope by the end of the year. It's on an app, and the idea is to keep it within the group, so we don't need to go into social media. And for that reason, there will be a recharge because I have to pay for the app. They are
Oh
not coming
yeah.
free.
Yeah. Well, this
Technology
actually.
doesn't come for free.
Indeed. I mean, I agree with it sometimes because when we put it out there, I mean, agree with the social media to that. Okay, I just want to be there. It's actually social anyway. You know, I can just connect with any people. But actually, the difficulty actually is there. You know, it doesn't mean that we can't connect easily in the social media. And yes, I mean, indeed, agree with this is something that we need to invest in something because I believe that you actually would like to share with what you know as a mentor, as a public speaker, you know, with a lot of experience, especially personal development and psychology things. It is worth it because I don't know if you still remember that we had a discussion about the more it's free, the more we can take advantage of it
Yeah,
because it's free anyway. I'm just gonna come. If not, doesn't matter. It's free anyway,
yeah,
right? Like there's no responsibility and no accountability in there. If this person is actually want to grow up as a person or not, because
yeah.
your idea. So what is your idea? What do you think about that?
Well, the idea really is to for people to realize this is a really a group where they can get the value. So,
Yeah,
the, I'm firmly believe I'm not a believer in big costs or there's a lot of people talking out there about high tickets and all that. I think most people don't have the money to afford it. So I'm for the founding members, it's €29 a month. That's a coffee and a bun once a week for people who live in Ireland because it gets so expensive, right? So a
yeah,
coffee and a bun per week will pay you the membership. Because we're only starting building it up, so there is not
mm,
much on it yet. So it will go up slightly a little bit over time, the price. But that's what it is for the founding members at the moment because I don't want to take advantage out of people or people saying,
yeah,
oh, there's another one just selling
yeah,
her up. No, the idea is really the why is really building the community. The money is there for having the possibility to have this group on their own app and obviously having people running it, and that's the
yeah,
idea. The only extra cost I could foresee in the future is say if somebody says, "Look, this is one particular issue." I just pick one out. If there's a lot of women, maybe my age, and said, "Oh, we're struggling with menopause," maybe get somebody in a speaker for a community event, helping with that. And obviously, if I bring people in from outside, they won't do it for free, right? So I will need
yeah,
to pay them. So that's the only other thing I could think of if we get an expert in on anything. But otherwise, no, it is. So the founding members, they will for however long they will be there. That's what they're going to pay, and the idea is really to have the support. This is really about building connections, building friendships, and my really hope would be that people after a while say, "Look, I come in every so often, but you know what? I've gone out. I've been so lonely. I have found a group of friends in my hometown."
yeah,
The idea really is for people who are just on social media now and feel so terribly lonely to find a group online where they feel at home, where they
yeah,
feel they have found a village, but then
mhm,
long term say, you know what? I have found that in my hometown. I have physical people I'm meeting with. We have a good time. We go out, we have fun, and when I feel feel I need to talk, I have somebody to talk to, and they don't need us anymore. I
Yeah.
would love people to go again, go back and actually build villages where they live. That's
Mhm.
my dream. That's my hope.
Wow. Yeah. Which is, oh, I can tell, talking about that, which loneliness is something that affects, again, like what we said earlier at the beginning, that it affecting our mental and our health, the physical health, which is, this is so scary. I mean, I think if something happened that physical health, it affect your physical health, it more cost than the 29 euro, I must say.
Yes.
Because it's something, because it's our mental that we need to actually work on ourselves, and sometimes we cannot do it our own, and with this community, it's actually a beneficial for all of us, for all of the people who want to join in this community.
Actually, they did a lot of research, and people aren't aware of that. If you, for example, look at premature death, right? So they have done research, different universities. If you live in an environment which is very polluted, you have a 5% higher chance of dying of a premature death. I think if you overweight for years, you have a 20% bigger chance to die of a premature death. Smoking, I think, is 15%, and it goes up and up and up, right? On the top, being lonely and being socially isolated, you have a 40% higher chance of dying of a premature death, which is the
Gosh.
highest of everything.
Oh my
Even
god.
double of obesity, double of smoking. People aren't aware of that, and people
No.
don't talk about it.
Yeah. Oh my god. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I hope this community is really something, because I'm pretty sad, when I know the loneliness is actually kill people. They just shouldn't be like this, because we have one place that we can support people, and I'm so glad that you have this idea to actually, you want to support people, because this is your one of your passion, that you want to help people. I must say.
Yeah. It has become my passion. And I said the big turning point was when I had the cancer journey and I got through it relatively easy. I was lucky as well because I hadn't spread, right? But I had the community to help me through it. And when I got my chemo and I spoke to some of the other patients there, some of them were so lonely. Some of them had absolutely no family at all. They didn't, they would be home in the evening, maybe being tired from the chemo and too tired to get up and make a cup of tea, and then nobody there. They were so lonely. I had mothers, young mothers, who said, I feel so lonely because I have to be strong for the family. My husband is upset. My kids are there. Some of them hadn't even told the kids what's going on, and they pretended everything was fine at home, even if they were so tired after treatment. And they were so lonely in the journey. And my heart went out to there and out to them. And was thinking if they would at least have a community once a week where they could just just come in and say, I had a tough week. I had a really tough week, and they can talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's not only cancer diagnosis, it's anything in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes men, a lot of men are terribly lonely. They have problems at
Oh.
work. They're worried
Yeah.
about supporting the family. They have learned from growing up the man is the strong man who supports
Yeah.
the family, and they're struggling and they won't even tell the wife because they don't want to look weak.
Oh my god. This is a
So
very common.
it's very common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And indeed, the reason why, it's because they have the pride that I'm a man. I don't need anything anyway. And I think this is also one of the issue that why um, many men are actually have high chance of a suicide, high percentage of the suicide because they think they are strong, and it's so difficult for a man to actually express themselves because of the pride. I'm a strong that I need to provide everything in life for the family. Shouldn't necessary like that.
Yeah. And it's down again to communication because even as boys, they don't even learn how communicate feelings because they're not supposed
Mm.
to, right? So
Oh,
it's I see it everywhere. It's more I work in the field even with friends and family and people in town here. You know, if as soon you're aware of loneliness and actually grief, because grief can be a very lonely place to be as well. And grief not necessarily means that somebody died. Grief can be that you know, you move town because of a job offer. You're grieving over your old home, you're grieving over your old friends you can't see anymore. Then you feel lonely because you're in a new place, you don't know anybody yet. You know, transitions like this can really bring us into, when we talked about this downward spiral, transitions like this really can put us into one.
yeah.
You
Mhm.
know, young adults leaving high school, going to university. Suddenly they can't talk to their friends anymore and they're in the course and they might not really click with the people there. And there's so much coming together that for the first time they have to fend for themselves and cook and do all those things. I mean, it's easier for some people, it's easier. I had a ball when I moved out, don't get me wrong. But
Oh
then
my
our
God.
parents were still so strict, we
Mm,
couldn't believe the
mm,
freedom we suddenly had, right? So
yeah.
and that's the thing, there is, and that's why I don't really do prescribe to free programs because we don't know how people react to events in their lives, to transitions
Mhm.
in their lives. We're all different and we all have a different reaction or response to whatever is going on. And that's the point. There's no right or wrong. It's about this understanding and actually help people. Even if some positive person said, look, I'm really struggling with this. Has anybody experienced that? And one maybe goes, yeah. And so how did you handle that?
Mhm.
Because we always only think out of the one experience we have.
Yeah.
So it's also about being role models to each other.
Mm,
That's
yeah.
that's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So isn't it hard to actually be a role model because it takes a lot of action that we need to have to be a role model here.
I think it's not hard to be a role model. Being a role model is about honesty. Because being a
Mm.
role model doesn't mean you're not struggling. Being a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
role
yeah,
model means to be able to say, wow, with this I'm now really struggling.
yeah. I think
That's
this is again, yeah,
people often think of role model, they put it equal with being perfect. Or leadership, being a good leader is somebody who has it all in check and is perfect. No good leaders and good role models, they struggle with the same feelings, with the same issues than everybody else. The difference is how they approach it. And I think the honesty is probably the
uh,
difference.
yeah.
I mean, how many really good leaders have you ever heard saying, well, we don't really know what's going on here. Let's figure it out together.
I think it's not all of them, not so many,
Most people who are in leadership are trying to pretend they know everything and they have everything in check.
and using the power to actually. Okay. So how do you think having a supportive village like which just in a we talk about impact all of the individuals overall well-being and resilience because we talk about resilience too.
Yeah. As I said, resilience is a little bit, a lot of the buzzwords who are out there at the moment. We talk about like the character traits. We talk about them like we have them or we don't have it, right? To
Yeah.
have resilience, to have grit, to be authentic. Um, Yeah, we talk about them like they're character traits, but they're not. As I said, resilience, grit is the same as being able to enjoy something. It lives in the same family. It's something we do in the moment. I always thought I'm very resilient. Well, when I got a breast cancer, I had to find out if I was resilient in that moment and in that situation because I never experienced really serious illness before. So I can't say, will I be resilient in the future in that moment because I haven't experienced it yet. I don't know. Resilience is in the moment. We are resilient in the moment when we have, as I said, the support, the help, and if we are in a good space ourselves. It's very easy to be resilient if you feel very grounded, you're at peace, something happens, you can handle it. If you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're already tired, too much is going on. One another thing might be just the drop who brings the barrel to run over, right?
Yeah.
And the resilience is gone like that. You may even were
Mhm.
resilient up to that moment, and because there's too much, that's it. So resilience is not a correct character trait. Resilience is something we can master in a moment or we can't. And I think that's really important. To being authentic, I can't be authentic. Now, if you say to me, Gaby, be authentic, what does it even mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Other people will determine if they perceive you authentic or not. It's if we put our words to our actions and we are true to what we say and we have passion and we have a why, people say, oh, look, she's authentic. But it's my behaviors and what I say which determine that. But other people will decide if they think this is authentic or not.
yeah,
I cannot say to the people out there, welcome to my village. I am authentic. They will make up their minds if I'm actually
yeah,
authentic or not
yeah,
by
yeah.
me.
Wow, wow, yeah, right, right.
The same with
Eh,
trust. You cannot say trust me. Other people will
yeah,
determine if they will trust me or not.
really, something like that. um, right. What is for you to actually have this community, or what strategies or approaches do you recommend for building or nurturing a supportive network professionally and personally?
Well, I think it's important to, first of all, have very little tutorials on the app. I think for me, it's important that most of the events are actually live.
Hmm.
So people can share and they can actually talk things through. I think that's the first step. The second step for me is to have facilitators with me who I trust
Right. Yeah.
and who share my ideas, who share the values, and who are also open to listen to people who want to understand the people who are coming and who also have no judgment. I think that's really, really important that the people who say run the space have no agenda themselves. And that's the main, I think, point how this community can work and the only way it can work. Because the minute people aren't in there with an agenda, it's all about them and it's not about a community anymore. And that's the point. It's always about us.
Right.
and and to be able for for everyone to also take it on the chin, right? For somebody to be honestly can honestly say to me, Gabi, I don't think this is working. Why don't we try something else? Or look, a few of us have this issue and we haven't addressed that yet. Can we get somebody in and do something? Or look, there is a space here which isn't working, but we think this would work. And, for me and everybody else to sit down and say, thank you very much for your suggestion. Let's do this. Let's talk about it. And, really make sure it's whoever comes in, it's their village. As
Yeah.
soon you have a village leader who becomes a guru, it will crumble. As soon the whole thing becomes about one person only, it will crumble. And that's what I'm saying. I may have the idea, I may put the money in for the moment to build the app and all that, but I'm just a facilitator. I'm not the facilitator.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. Um, do you have a big dream that this community and networking called the village and support each other, it's going to be big because it's not just just a community, it's actually something that you want to help and influence people.
That's a really good question. I think I think the actual village I would like to keep fairly small
Okay.
because as more people we get, as more diluted it gets.
Mm,
I think the real hope I have is that people come in, become role models themselves, and actually start villages themselves. So, as I said, like saying, you know, I loved it here. I may come to community events if something interesting is on, or we might even manage to meet in person one day somewhere and put in a little event in person. But where they literally in the end say, look, I don't need to come anymore. I'm canceling my subscription because I have found my village where I live with people I can meet. So for me, the success of it is not having thousands and thousands of people on the app. I wouldn't like that because then it becomes really messy and I would rather have just 60 to 100 people there at the time, and then people saying after a while, you know what? I have found my friendships in town. I've gone out and I met people. I I really, really have found happiness, content, deep connections, relationships, and I don't feel lonely anymore.
yeah. Mm,
And if not even, I'm not knowing if this stream is going to work. I think it's going to work because I think there's a real need for it. It's about, for me, it's about people getting the life skills, the communication skills to actually go out there, build deep connections, deep relationships, and living the life they want to live.
it's actually this is something not you try to help people not to depend on you, but try to help them, and then finally they actually find uh, the idea that they can be their role model for themselves, which is wow,
Yeah,
this is a very wise dream, wise
yeah.
attitude from you, Gabby. And last thing that I want you to actually I want to know from you, what advice would you give to someone who may be struggling to find or establish a supportive village in their life? Is we're far, right?
The first thing I would say is to actually sit back and take a little bit of stock. Because sometimes when we start feeling really lonely, especially if we fall into this trap that people may be against us, to actually start reflecting what's true and what's not true. When we start feeling lonely and we start isolating ourselves more and more and more, we often don't even look for the connections anymore. And you see it sometimes in people who fall in a really deep depression. where they really need a doctor to help them out, right? A really deep depression. They often are very isolated and they don't even contact people anymore,
Ooh. Yeah.
right? So, with a lot out of my personal experience now with friends who had fallen into a really deep hole, I didn't hear from them for years. They wouldn't pick up the phone and even say, "Hi, how is it going?" They literally isolated them to a point where people may contact them 4 or 5 times and they never heard back. So if you really feel you have been left on your own with no help and nobody cares, just look at the people, the friendships you used to have, and just maybe ask yourself the question, have I been in contact with them? Have I actually picked up the phone and looked for the connection? Or am I sitting back here just waiting for somebody to ring me? Something very simple. And don't get me wrong, I had two situations in my life where it was hard going. And I did the same. I was sitting back, like, ah, nobody's ringing me. Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt, oh, nobody cares. They've all forgotten about me. But the honest truth was, I hadn't contacted them either. Right?
Right. Yeah.
And the minute I actually, before I fell too deep into that hole, I actually picked up the phone and I rang two, three friends. And they were like, oh, I'm so glad to hear about you. I was so, you just see people are trapped in their own life, in their own busyness, in their own trauma. And the minute they said, how are you doing? They said, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't been on so long. What's going on for you? And suddenly we had an hour conversation.
Wow. Hmm.
So it's important to take stock sometimes as well and see where we at. Yeah,
Right.
it's
Okay.
maybe a start. It's maybe a
Well.
start. But then everybody's different, as I said. That may work for some, may not. It's really, yeah. Just seek connection, seek a place where you feel you can talk. I think that's the main point I want to make. Who can you talk to? Who do you really want to share whatever is going on with without feeling I can't, if that makes sense. Because it's
Mhm.
often just the and it's the feeling. It's more often a feeling we have rather than reality.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 Well, I just have that experience actually, recently about I uh, why is it nobody ring me? Why people don't care with me? Why they are that's a lot of question in there, and I don't even want to actually ring them. So, what is your advice to encourage yourself who has this experience? Because sometimes, to call people, oh, maybe they don't actually care to me and things like that. And, well, this person are actually toxic. And I don't want to call this person. Do you really choose the person who want to ring, who want to call, or?
Yeah, I think just start with one person, and the
Mm,
question probably is to ask, who do I miss the most?
okay. Yeah.
Who do I actually miss?
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter how long ago it was. It's just about reaching out, because I think isolation and depression goes with isolation. If we isolate it long enough, there will be depression in the mix. The problem is more depressed we are, as less we seek connection.
Yeah.
As less we seek connection, as more lonely we feel, as more depressed we are. It's one of these downward spirals. And a really
Yeah.
depressed person will get at the end really to the point where they can't even get off the couch and shower themselves because they just don't even have the energy to do that.
Oh, this is so
The
deep.
minute you go out and you meet somebody for a coffee in a coffee shop, even if you had a hard week, you feel better.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's just one of those workings in life which have truth, but it's really hard to. If we're down, if we feel down, it's so hard to motivate ourselves to actually do it.
Yeah.
I had a little bit. Anybody who may doesn't know what it's like, think about after the COVID lockdowns, and you had the first time to go to a venue and look for nice clothes and lovely shoes and put the makeup on. I think every single person I know said, "Oh my God, the first time it was so hard making the effort." We were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
really? I have to look for nice clothes." It was really, really hard. Now imagine you're in a situation where that is the feeling every single day, and you get actually to a point where that feeling is there even to get off the couch. That's what depression feels like. You feel like the entire energy has been sucked out of you and
Mm.
nothing matters anymore. It's a really, really, and these are these situations, because I talked about the antidepressant pills before. Now these are the situations where people seriously need help. So I'm, as I said, I'm not against. I'm a psychiatric nurse myself, so I'm definitely not against it. It's just look for help before you get to that point. Reach out.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
how often have you actually really rang an old friend and they said, "Oh, go away, I don't want to talk to you, I don't care about you"? How often has that actually really happened,
Don't think it.
realistically?
It. Yeah. Mhm.
You
I think that might be very happy for sure. Oh, it's been a long time, something like that.
know?
Right. Yeah.
They may
Well.
say they may say I can't talk right now, but that's
Mhm.
very likely nothing to do with me. That may be something to do that they have two kids trying to get the dinner or whatever it is. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
yeah.
So
Mm,
just say then, okay, what time would suit you? And they say, you know what, it would be lovely to talk to you. Saturday is a good day.
yeah.
Oh,
Right. Wow. It's been really inspiring conversation for myself, especially because I experienced that loneliness also in myself. So, Gabby, I want you to share a message, a simple message, one sentence or one, two words to our uh, everyone here who's watching this video, who's lonely. What do you want to say to them?
r- feeling lonely is exactly that. It's a feeling, and it will go. You know what? I have to think about it now. That's the honest answer. Because what's the one real message we can give to people who are feeling really lonely? Because
Mm,
it's so hard to be in that space. All I can actually say is look to find at least one person you start a conversation with. Somebody you missed. Make the effort and be open to the world. And I think that's maybe the real message, to learn to be open to the world again, because the spiral of loneliness and social isolation, especially as we know now how it affects the brain as well.
mhm,
Um, there is a research where they found that people who are lonely, they even see signs in body language as hostile where it's maybe not, right? And they detect it really, really quickly. So be open, open up yourself to the world again. And this can only be done by small steps. This is the way out of loneliness. And if it's social isolation because the reason because you maybe lost your partner, look in town for groups you can join. There is groups and help out there. So look for help. But the thing is, you have to do the first step. People will really not come to your door and ring the doorbell. If you want friendships, connections, it's two ways, and you need to do a step forward to find that. So, yeah, talking that through, if there is one message, have the courage to do the first step.
wow. I love this one. Have the courage to do the step because this is the hardest part for meet people that can do. So I think the courage is the best message for all of you guys who's watching this video. Take the courage to take the step and uh, be there. Ask for help
Yeah.
for actually our health, the brain, the mind, and our physical body too. Wow, thank you very much, Gabby, for your share. It's so inspiring, and it's been amazing discussion. And about the link to join the group, um, I will put it in the chat for all of you guys who want to join the application, the link with Gabby. I'm pretty sure um, everything is going to be okay as long as we have the courage, like what Gabby said. So thank you
Yeah.
very much, Gabby, for um, being here and sharing for all of us. I hope this is going to give a value for all of the people who's watching. And thank you very much for Gabby. And thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure. Bye.